Hey, I'm Haya. You can find me at diggingdeeperforsuccess.com. We here in our Digging Deeper tribe are a team and tribe of women who are high achievers or aspiring high achievers, and we are multi-passionate women who have many goals, objectives, visions, and dreams that we are working to pursue in life. And we don't want to just pick one or two. We want to have it all. And we know that there is a solution to everything if we are willing to dig deep enough. And that is exactly what we do right here, digging deeper together for success. So today we're going to talk about something that all of us can relate to, which is how to focus when you feel overwhelmed. So I'm going to share with you a few tips that I have found to be extremely helpful in my own life, and I think they're going to help you too. So today I'm going to share with you a few tips that I have found to be extremely helpful in my own life, and I think that they will help you too. Okay, so let's jump right in. First of all, overwhelm. What is this feeling of overwhelm? It's where we feel like we are just being crushed and buried under a mountain of things, and we don't know what to do first. So this feeling of overwhelm, it can come from a couple of different places. It could come from very heavy emotions that we don't know how to process, and so therefore they leave us paralyzed. Occasionally, and hopefully not terribly often, this could come from immense seasons of challenge or tragedy. Maybe you have a loved one that is very sick or in a very hard time, or maybe you're going through an extremely hard time financially or physically or with your own health, or if you have lost a loved one, God forbid, and you are just trying to have to pick up and regroup and rebuild from a new place. And if that's the case, there's so much healing that has to go on through that, and that's a whole different conversation in and of itself, and I would never dream of undermining that amount of pain, because that is real. And that is not what we're going to talk about today, because it does need its own conversation, okay? But once that healing has taken place and you have allowed yourself the space and the time and the grace to do that, then once you are ready to pick up and keep moving, then you're going to come back to this conversation, okay? And I can tell you from friends and family of mine that have been through those challenges that sometimes it takes once or twice or three times or more to where you attempt it and you're not ready, or you attempt it and you do a little bit. You do a little bit at a time, and that's okay. This is not a race, that's for sure. But there are many other times, and most of the time, overwhelm comes from either a weight of something feeling too heavy, or a lack of clarity of focus, and we're not sure where to go first. Or it could come from simply having too many tasks on your to-do list with not enough resources, not enough manpower, not enough funding, not enough time to actually get through that list in what seems to be a reasonable way. So if any of those are relatable to you, what we're going to talk about now is what to do about it, okay? So first thing that I am going to share with you, and I'm going to share with you 3 different tips of how I work through this feeling of overwhelm. And it is such a strong feeling, it can be almost debilitating. Okay, but what I want you to know, we've known this, we hear this all the time to where it almost becomes cliche. An overwhelmed mind does nothing, and it's so true. But what we sometimes don't realize, and what is not nearly as popular of an awareness and a reality, is that feeling and being overwhelmed is a choice. So the very first thing that I'm going to have you do, if you are ready, if you know that you want to move from overwhelmed into empowered and you're ready to take those practical steps, the first thing that I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you make a list, a master task list. All the things that are swimming around in your brain that you know that you need to do. And I'm going to tell you, this is not going to be so easy. It sounds a little bit ridiculously easy, but it's not so easy. And a lot of women subliminally, subconsciously avoid this task of making the task list. They avoid it like the plague because they don't want to feel that feeling of overwhelm as they sit down and start to think about everything on their list, because it's painful, it's scary, and it's like, you feel like you're going to hyperventilate because the list is, 17 pages long. And that's okay. Until you get it on paper, here's what's happening. You've got these explosions, like these bombs going off in your brain, in your mind, at all hours of the day and night as these things come to the surface and they just come to the forefront of your conscious brain and they attack you. Because you're like, oh, I forgot about this. What about this? And you're constantly being reminded of all of these things, okay? So when you get it on paper, it literally stops you from that duck and cover feeling of protecting yourself from those mental bombs, those mental mines, okay? Now, once you get it on paper, I am expecting it to be very, very long, and that is okay. Now, as you look at this list, we're going to divide it into 4 categories, and I have talked about this at length before, so I'm going to link to another video, which is the 4 Ds, okay, which is you're either going to do it, delegate it, delay it, or delete it. Those are the 4 Ds. As you look through everything on your list, depending on the time you've got, the resources you've got, the help you've got, you're going to go through those 4 things, okay? But you're not going to do that until you have had a major exercise in priorities, okay? So you're going to get the master task list down first, and that is just going to be a very healthy exercise in reality of all the things that you've got going on. And then before you go into that 4 Ds list, you're going to do 2 things. You're going to first have an exercise in priorities. And I want to remind you, we cannot have 97 priorities at a time. It just doesn't work. Look at physically, realistically right now, how much time per week, per month, per day do you have to focus on your projects at hand? Is it 2 hours a day? Is it 3 hours a day? Is it 10 hours a week? Is it 50 hours a week? Whatever your chunk of time is, there's no right or wrong, there's no good or bad, and it is your reality right now. You may be able to change that reality as you go, and that's wonderful. You can adapt as you go, but let's deal in reality right now, and let's quit waiting for things to change. So with where you're holding right now, how much time do you have to invest? How much energy do you have to invest? And based on that, then you're going to decide, what are my priorities? If nothing else gets done, what is the number 1 thing that has to get done? What is the number 2 thing that has to get done? And you really, really should not pick more than 5. 5 would be the max that you should pick. For example, Warren Buffett talks about his 5-25 list. And he says, you may have 25 things that you really need to work on, but only 5 can be in your zone of focus at any one time. And those other 20, you've just got to force yourself to literally ignore for right now. Okay? So you've got this max of 5. And within those 5 areas of focus, now remember, automatically everything else that is not one of those 5 would go on to the other 3 Ds, right? Either you're delegating them, you're delaying them, or you're just straight up deleting them for now, okay? Once you've got those areas of focused priority identified, you lift those out from all the rest, and the rest just becomes placeholders for things that you're going to give your focus to later. And I cannot tell you the number of times that stuff has just blown up in my life, and I have to say to myself, you know what? I'm going to have to make an appointment to pout about that later, or I'm going to make an appointment to panic about that later because I don't have time right now. And if I take a detour and sit down and have a panic attack or a meltdown or a fit or a whatever right now, it's going to derail the precious time I do have to move my missions forward. And it is okay to have these types of conversations with yourself. It does help quite a lot, I will tell you. Okay? So I've made my master list. It might be 97 pages long. I have picked out the 5 most critical priorities of everything that I've got going on, up to 5. It might be only 1, 2, or 3, and that's great. The fewer the better. But up to 5, everything else is on my list that is saved for later, where I'm either going to delay it, delegate it, or delete it. And then within these 5 areas of focus, that's where I'm going to start to really prioritize and break down my list and my tasks and my day. The second thing that I want you to do before you start going into your 4 Ds list is I want you to make one little shift. And instead of calling it your to-do list, I want you to call it your get-to-do list, okay? This is something that I've heard a number of times, and it has always been so encouraging to me, and it's such a great reminder every time I hear it. I did not make this up, but I absolutely love it. If you call your to-do list your get-to-do list, it is such a healthy exercise in gratitude and really helping us shift our perspective to remember that, oh yeah, these are things that I am working toward in my life. These are moving me in the areas I want to go with the goals and the dreams and the objectives that I have. And I have so many blessings, and thank heaven these are really first world problems. And I am ecstatic that I have the opportunity to be able to do these things to help accomplish my dreams and my missions. And that little tiny shift in perspective can be so encouraging. Okay, last thing that I want to share with you is you may hit a point where you get stumped. You may be going through all of this. You may be looking at your list. You may be really pushing yourself through, and you may feel like that temptation to slip away into overwhelm is really bubbling up, and you, for the life of you, you cannot figure out how to move forward. You are in analysis paralysis. It is very real. It is very strong, and I have been there many times myself. So I want to give you a lifeline here. When you hit that point, do not hesitate to seek outside help, to seek outside counsel. Find someone that is not emotionally attached to the situation, someone that can be an objective third party, that can just be a listening ear, or that can help you bounce ideas around a sounding board and can really help you take a 30,000-foot view and help you make decisions, because they're not so close to the information to where you are stuck and unable to move. So first, we've got to decide we want to move from being overwhelmed to being empowered. Second, we're going to make our master task list of everything that is swimming around in our brain, going off like bombs and leaving us ducking and covering all the time. Third, we are going to make our list of priorities. From all of those things, we're going to find the top 1 to 5 things that are most critical, most important, must happen now before anything else happens, and we are going to focus on just those 5. Once we've done that, we're going to put all those others, even if you're going to go through the 4 Ds, you're going to put all of those on a save for later task list. So you're not going to forget about them. You're not going to lose them. But for right now, you're only going to focus on those top 5. You're going to make that your get-to-do list instead of your to-do list, so that you can have a fresh perspective of gratitude and empowerment as you go into this project. And last but not least, if at any point you get stuck and you find that you literally are paralyzed and you cannot move forward, then you're going to reach out for a lifeline, and you're going to find somebody who can be an objective third party that can help you work through this exercise of your master list, and they can help you identify what are those top 5 that must be done now. I promise you, anytime you hit that feeling of overwhelm, if you're going to walk yourself through this simple exercise, it will pull you out of that black hole, of that abyss. It will put you back on your powerful feet, and you will be able to make those decisions to rock your own world, even when you feel like you're surrounded by a sea of drama. Give it a try, my friend. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your experience, and your feedback. And until next time, we are right here digging deeper for success together.